All great things must come to an end, and this is true with even Spot Bitcoin ETF inflows. We take a look at the historic streak and look at how rare the success of these ETFs have actually been. Speaking of rare, what is a rare sat, and why did one go for $2.1 million? Plus, in the last 24 hours, everything has turned on a dime in the US as the economy enters stagflation with slowing GDP and rising inflation. And US citizens are questioning their fundamental right to privacy, as Samourai co-founders were arrested on charges for money laundering and unlicensed money transmitting. What does this mean for the future of privacy on Bitcoin? Welcome to the Bitcoin Daily Show. I'm Dante Cook, head of Swan Business. All great things must eventually come to an end, and we're witnessing the end of an era right in front of our eyes. With Steph and the Warriors out of the playoffs, and KD and the Suns and LeBron's Lakers both down 2-0, it's clear that we're likely witnessing the end of three all-time greats as the new guard steps in. Never say never, but teams that lead 2-0 in a best-of-7 series have an all-time record of 314-27. But even with them losing, we have to recognize that we're watching greatness. And that's how I would characterize BlackRock's 71-day streak of net inflows being snapped. BlackRock's streak of net inflows was snapped at 71, ranking them as the 10th longest streak of all time among ETFs. But all of these funds that they are on this list with had these long streaks well after they were launched, not right when they launched. BlackRock's IBIT has redefined the success of ETFs altogether, along with Fidelity. IBIT, FBTC, ARKB, and BITB all rank within the top 10 of net asset flows in their first 72 days of trading. And you know what else is ending right now? Everybody's fake optimism about the US economy, as reality slaps Wall Street and Main Street in the face. GDP came out at just 1.6% compared to 3.4% when reported in Q4 of 2023. That combined with core PCE rising almost 100% from 2% to 3.7% in this last reading. We have entered stagflation with rising inflation and slower growth. Goldman was wrong in their estimates on GDP by over 50% as they forecasted 3.1% in this latest reading. But what's new? Wall Street is completely disconnected from reality. And you know what else is completely disconnected from reality? The auction of the first SAT from Bitcoin's fifth epoch going for $2.1 million. There is no first SAT. A SAT is just a unit of measurement for a UTXO. As Swan friend and CEO of Barefoot Mining, Bob Burnett, puts it, there is no way to distinguish new Bitcoin issuance from existing Bitcoin issuance. Which leads me to our bombshell story of the day. Co-founders and CEO of Samourai, a Bitcoin mixing service, were arrested on charges of money laundering and unlicensed money transmitting. Before I dive into this, let me try to paint a picture with an analogy from Jensen Huang, NVIDIA's founder, at Stripe's recent payment conference. He compared AI to what we did at the start of the Industrial Revolution, which was take water, an input, and create electricity as an output. What he does and what he says his company does essentially is it builds token machines, taking electricity as an input and outputting tokens. ChatGPT outputs tokens. It could be a text, a large language model, an image, which is why I believe that banning and discriminating against Bitcoin mining is wrong. Bitcoin does the same thing as NVIDIA by taking electricity on one side and outputting a token or Satoshis on another side. You're assigning malintent or a bad characteristic to one token and not another token. One is prohibited and one is allowed. Both tokens are performing the same task. This leads me to my fundamental issue with the charges from the Southern District of New York. Without actually knowing whether money has been obtained legally or illegally, they are deeming certain money exchanges as money laundering or financial crimes. Anytime you convert a paycheck, whether that's a digital paycheck or a physical paycheck, for cash, and you go spend that cash at the grocery store, that is a form of mixing, a private transaction where you are exchanging one form of currency for another form of currency, but they are like currencies. You also do this when you exchange a $100 bill for four $20 bills and a $10 bill and a 5 with 5 ones. You are essentially mixing the money. But that doesn't mean that you acquired that money illegally. And the issue that I have is that they are mixing the act of exchanging money with illegal activity. As Lynn Alden puts this in a Nostr post, privacy is normal and good. Now that open source technology can make certain transactions private, authorities increasingly equate all private money transfer with money laundering, even if the developer of the open source tech had no direct involvement with criminals. Authorities target them regardless and sanction the technology itself. Financial privacy becomes synonymous with crime in their minds and in the minds of the public. Now, the government may have more information than we are privy to in this case. And it's very possible, given that Samourai and Samourai founders have posted things like welcoming Russian oligarchs to their system or offering to investors that this was a sort of service or thing that could be used for in investment documents. It is possible for these two things to both be true at the same time. That privacy is a fundamental right that we should fight for and is a good and just thing to voice our concern about. And there could have been criminal activity going on here. We don't know enough on the surface. Swan co-founder Jan Pritzker highlights the nuances of this in several tweets that we have linked in the show notes. Here are two other issues that I have with this on the surface. One, if you are charging them with money laundering, you are then considering Bitcoin as money. But I thought for every other intents and purpose, it was considered property. Well, then, would any time that we spent money elicit a capital gains tax like it does with Bitcoin? Why is Bitcoin considered money in a certain instance, but property in other instances? There needs to be more clarity around this. Two, the media continues to spread the lie that Bitcoin is primarily used for fraud, ransomware, illegal activity like money laundering that they're trying to point out in this case. But even the government themselves in this press release says that over 2 billion transactions were done, but about $100 million worth were done in the case of money laundering. That's about 5% of the total flows that were used for this illicit activity. So even in this case, with a privacy-based service, if the ratio of non-illicit or non-illegal activity is 95% of the activity and illegal activity is 5% of the activity, then how can you continue to paint the picture that Bitcoin is primarily used for illegal activities? It's not. All right, let's end the show on a lighter note. We always need an opportunity to cheer for the good guy. And that good guy is Christian Langelis. Christian Langelis, if you don't remember, was the 22-year-old intern who held up the Buy Bitcoin sign in the middle of a Fed hearing committee where Janet Yellen was giving the update semi-annual report to Congress about the monetary policy coming up. Unlike the first SAT, which isn't real and can't be verified, Christian auctioned off the Buy Bitcoin sign and it went for 16 Bitcoin or just over $1 million yesterday. Here's a small bit of hope that can be taken from this sort of story. Regardless of whether you have influence or power, it always makes sense to say the right thing and to stand up to power, even if you don't have any. And eventually, you will be rewarded. Hopefully, we all get rewarded like Christian one day with over $1 million. But the principle remains. It's always the right time to do the right thing. Congratulations, Christian, from the Bitcoin Daily Show. And with that, we're signing off for the day. I'm Dante Cook, Swan.com. Happy stacking.